Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchtime Series with me, Kevin Brits, proudly powered by Leadership by Design.co, leading the charge with insights, information, and ultimately effective results. Joining me in today's Marketing and Leadership segment, Marketing and Communications expert and co-host, Craig Page-Lee. How are you doing, Craig?
Kevin, I'm great, thank you. Yeah, it's been a good week so far, and yeah, good to be chatting, but definitely looking forward to the show because we've got a special guest joining us today.
We do. We've got I'll leave you to do introductions, but I was saying earlier that I'm pretty biased because I get to work with this leader, and I'm really taking some time to get him on the show. I know his diary is jam-packed, so it's nice to know that he's here. And I mean, you're going to do the intro, Craig, but having the opportunity to work with him for a while now, I can attest to some of the exceptional leadership skill that this man has. And, he also epitomizes, and exemplifies some of the future of leadership skills that we often speak about in the show. So just to have his mind and his brain on it, it's exciting. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, he does have a name, and Morné Stoltz. Morné, welcome to the show today. Morné is Executive Head, Sales and Distribution at MyWay Insurance. Firstly, thanks for taking time out of your day to join us. We really do appreciate it. And having met you in person, I know there's going to be some wonderful conversation happening around the table.
Thank you, Craig, for the invite, and Kevin for the kind words. You didn't come across biased at all.
Not at all.
Brilliant. So before jumping into the topic in conversation we're going to have today, I just wanted to mention that really we're going to cover some of the key points from at least the last three shows that have actually stood out for us, and we really believe that Morné is the right individual to bring some clarity to some of these points and actually bring a bit of a personal reference point and experience in what these particular concepts actually mean in his effective leadership style that Kevin was chatting about. And yeah, but let me first allow me to do a deeper introduction to the listeners, Morné, and I'd like to just reference your LinkedIn profile quickly for our listeners, if you don't mind. So for the listeners, Morné works, as I say, as Executive Head in MyWay Insurance. Been there for over 8 years, heading towards the 9th year at MyWay. Prior to that, really deep experience in the insurance industry. Morné was head of the auto insurance group AIG in South Africa, spending period of time there, and then a good run on one of the other big behemoth brands in the industry, the Telesure Investment Group. Morné, so give us a bit of a quick intro into the understanding of your journey through these insurance companies and how you actually got into the game in the first place.
Well, yeah, Craig, I think, I often refer to insurance being my parent, seeing that it's really brought me up from a very young age. I started in the call center setup as a call center agent myself at the tender age of 21 years old, and Auto & General was the insurance company that appointed me at the time. And wow, what a journey it's been, the subsequent 23 years in insurance. And I've been through many different disciplines, from marketing to distribution, sales, direct to consumer, B2B to C. I think it's an interesting journey in an industry that's given me lots and lots of opportunities over the 23 years. And I hope that I'll be fortunate enough to be afforded many more opportunities in the coming years.
Fantastic. And looking forward to, hence wanting you on the show today, because you've got some really deep experience across a couple of really important facets and sectors within the business. So yeah, welcome, and let's have a good conversation.
Thank you, Craig.
To kick it off, Morné, so we recently have been speaking about organizational culture, and I'd like to ask, what do you think about companies' cultures, and what defines a successful, healthy company culture?
I think and I think many of the leaders out there will agree with me that that's probably leaders, and especially mine's biggest challenge is instilling a culture and allowing that culture to grow and resonate within a business inherently. So, for me, is bringing people and making sure that there's an authentic connection to the organization and what the business stands for. And, firstly, you must align with the organization's values, and the old traditional things, the mission statement and the vision of the business. If those things aren't clear and it doesn't resonate with the specific employee that you're trying to attract or have in your organization, then it's going to be very difficult to foster a healthy, authentic culture in the business. South Africa is also, we're so fortunate to live in a very diverse country, but it comes with its own challenges. When we've got so many cultures in our business, you need to think very carefully of how you're going to come up with a value system that sits with every individual in our diverse country. So I think those are some of the bigger challenges that we answer. I think, we've come up with a very unique value system in our business. We can see it, and we underpin it with a clear, we're here to serve the customer. And I think that is one thing that sits well with every single individual, whether you're male or female, whether you're young or old, doesn't matter what background you come from. That is our unified thing. We call it lead by service, led by service, and that is what underpins our culture and our business.
That's fantastic. And the couple of key bits that really jump out at me there is this authentic connection to the organization. Really, really important statement. At the same time, if your vision, mission, and purpose isn't clear at the leadership level, there's no way an authentic connection is going to be achieved.
100% spot on, and I like references where people will say that values and culture is not something that you put on a poster against the wall. You must be able to hear, see, and feel it in the organization for it to be authentic and natural.
And there's a lot of components that have to come to alignment to ensure that is achieved. As you talk about the values, the beliefs, the attitudes, the particular systems and rule sets that you work to within the organization, and then behaviors, because behaviors are your values in action, and it's ensuring that the behaviors of from leadership right the way through the organization really are exemplified and demonstrate the understanding of the purpose of the organization moving forward. So I'd like to jump in here, Kevin, if you don't mind, just ask a question relative to this whole concept around return to office. And the reason I'm asking this is because you talk around call center background. The insurance industries are very call center laden. Big percentage of the headcounts are call center agents, and in most instances, call centers are well established structural environments that are attached to offices, which means that staff do have to come into the workplace. Whereas the needs, particularly at Gen Z levels around there, are such that they want to be spending more time away from the office. Flexibility, work at their own pace, work at their own capacity, and things like that. How do you see that particular proposition playing out in your organization, particularly in the call center, as a reference point around call centers?
I think, Craig, I'm glad that you make clear reference to call centers, and I'll get back to that just now. I think the first thing we did with work from home and hybrid solutions became very topical, and we as an Exco team decided up front that we're not going to follow international trends, because I think, again, South Africa is very unique compared to the rest of the world, and we're not going to follow those patterns anytime soon. Why I say that and why it's important to reference call centers, I think the decision we have made is to say that certain pockets of our business do qualify for a hybrid model, and is more conducive to that specific function. That will be a typical example, will be our finance function or actuarial function, where we need deep focus and specialization into a specific role. But when it comes to call centers, we just saw that the energy that sits within an environment when the people come together and a team leader manages those teams and how we service our customers is just something that I can't see us replacing with a hybrid or work from home solution anytime soon. I mean, it's just, and you must come to our offices to experience it, to feel it. Ask Kevin, when you walk around in these environments, then we must never forget. And I think, a lot of companies that I've seen in South Africa that adopted this work from home very quickly, I hope don't forget that a lot of our citizens in this country come from, much less than ideal circumstances. So it's not always ideal for an entry-level call center agent to work from home. Connectivity is an issue. The amount of people that live in one specific household could be an issue. Coming to the office is most of the time under better circumstances. That's a preference for the staff. And especially bulk of our call centers, where we hire younger staff members, don't come from ideal situations where there's fiber lines and public transport readily available, outside their doors, where it's conducive to the type of culture that we're trying to drive in our business.
I'm loving the fact that you referenced the infrastructural aspects, because really those are such important drivers of the decision and the adoption of whether folks stay at home or not in South Africa. Quite right. In the Western world, the infrastructure is Northern Europe, in particular, America. The infrastructure, everybody has access to everything at a really good rate, and it just changes the dynamics of being able to work remotely. The interesting thing for me around, particularly in the call center environment, is in many instances there's this issue around leadership have been sort of labeled as not trusting their staff, and that's why they want everybody to come back into the business. The core function of what the call center operatives are doing is such that they do need to be together, they do need access to the technology, and they do need to be, aligned with the call center agent heads and things like that. Do you feel that even whilst they're there, you are able to demonstrate, to your teams are able to demonstrate sufficient trust that they know that they're not being over scrutinized and things like that they do have some flexibility and leniency in the way they operate in a structured call center environment?
Yes, and I think, just one step back for me, and it's not going to be out of a book answer, because it's really a personal view, for me, is a couple of things. So the recruitment process is quite important. So when we hire the guy or girl into the call center, that conversation needs to be transparent of why our call center role is in the office. I think if you work in a call center, you would probably not be an introvert that prefers working outside of big scale of people. And the other thing, that the softer issue for me is, and I hate to generalize, but we're South African. We like to speak to one another. We don't want to be isolated in our homes, and we get energy from one another. So, it's a completely different environment. So now we get to the office, and then there's addressing the trust issue. So we're very clear and transparent with all our sales and service teams that make up the bigger portions of our call centers. And I think it's so clear why we're at the office. We've got the access to data sets on screens, customer holding times on screens. So, to manage customer engagement and how we deal with that, how we do sales huddles in teams, and giving a sales manager access to that. We have incentive drives that you will not be able to do remotely. It will be a complete disconnect. So I think we have been able to steer away from the distrust issue quite successfully. And we get it right at the recruitment phase to set the expectations and be transparent enough that there's no misleading expectation that one day you might be able to work from home if
Yeah.
you're in this specific role. And I think we've also communicated to the broader company in quite significant detail that which are the roles and specializations that qualifies for a hybrid model. And that is always attached to performance. And once that drops, that takes a different direction. But it's all about that. That's the trust factor. And if you grow in your role and you start in the call center, like I say to many people, you can make out quite a career in insurance. You don't have to stay in the call center. It might be an entry point for you, but you don't have to stay there. If you then later say that your lifestyle has changed or you would like a more hybrid working situation, there's other roles that you can apply for that is more conducive, but we're not letting go of, if you client facing, if I can say that, that we're going to allow you to work from home.
Fantastic. And I actually want to ask one more question around this, because there's quite a nice linkage to the opening statement you made again around the authentic connection to the organization in respect of the cultural question we started with, is that, what is your personal point of view or thought relative to the difficulty in being able to inculcate a really cohesive culture when you have dispersed and disparate teams working from different locations or from home on a continuous basis?
So what we do with our more specialist areas, they've got specific game plan around connecting with one another. So let's just take our IT development team. So we actually have seen a nice increase in productivity from our IT development team working remotely, because the guys are a lot more focused. They sit with task sheets that we actually monitor productivity on. So if you get 10 tasks today, we expect you to deliver on 10 tasks. And then we've got specific connect sessions that still happen in office. So it would be a day that the whole development team or a specific portion of the development team comes in and engage with one another and have a face-to-face brainstorm engagement. And from there, they go back into their teams and deliver. Now, in those weekly or bi-weekly, fortnightly connect sessions where they come into the office, the leader of that section, that is the hard work for that one day, is to make sure that group, while they're spending time together, still feels the culture of MiWay and understands the vision and the mission and the value system that hasn't changed. Somehow my colleagues in IT have convinced me that this works well, and I trust them that, and we can see it from the delivery. I often run into our hybrid staff on weekends or after hours, albeit in a shopping mall or wherever, in a restaurant, and they understand. They still work for MiWay. They understand the vision. They understand the mission. They feel very much part of the family, but at the same time, enjoy the ability to focus on a specific task and get done what they want to put their heads down to do. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's how we're trying to navigate this.
No, it definitely does, and it's wonderful to see that there is a bit of this hybrid model at play in your organization. And I've had quite a big interest and focus around call centers. I had the privilege during some of my postgrad studies to go to Dublin and visit some of the largest call centers in the world, because I was looking at the services related industry. And you're walking into buildings that are the size of football stadiums, and it was Google, Lufthansa, IBM, and LinkedIn and the likes, and as far as the eye can see is a building packed with teams and flags representing the different countries that they represent, and it's just this great energy. You spoke about the energy earlier on, and was a real privilege to experience the enormity of that firsthand as well.
Craig, I just want to just on the energy point. I think that's one of the oversights that I think that we haven't actually touched on in the conversations we've had about return to office, and I think that's such a significant, maybe not that obvious, but necessary point to point out is, when you do go to a call center environment like MyWays, and I get to be there often, and you experience a type of energy in that environment that you don't just, it's buzzing the whole time. So I think, speaking to energy is quite a necessity for, and also the context of the situation. Like, ideally, people have this work at home idea of, what the Europeans are doing. But back to Morné's point, like, we are South Africans, right? And we function like South Africans, and we do speak well to each other, and we do like that engagement. So I think energy is a significant point.
Absolutely. And Kevin, the transfer of energy, particularly in the agents who have direct contact with clients telephonically and even face to face, is that, if that environment is a flat, stale environment, that negative energy is transferred in the conversation and engagement with customer, and your customer experience is then not a positive, energized experience. So it's really important. I like the fact that you bring that up as a more important word than we've given it to date.
Yeah, I mean, but Craig, I know, like, we are strict on timing here. So, I mean, moving into thinking creatively, I know you've got a nice question from Morné about thinking creatively.
Yeah, Morné, there's a wonderful book that we came across on the topic of thinking creatively, and the book's titled Open to Think, Slow Down, Think Creatively, and Make Better Decisions. And the one paragraph of the book that stood out for me is notes that when we think, we are using our minds to actively form connection, or to form or connect an idea. And that thinking is also an approach, a possibility, a deliberation, an opinion, or an attitude. It can even be a belief or a conclusion. So with that statement in mind, what role does creativity play in your business, if any at all, Morné? And actually, firstly, what would you define as creativity in your business, and then allude to what role it plays in the business?
Look, as much as I say that insurance has afforded me a lot of opportunities, for my sins, it's probably one of the most competitive environments that you can be in. I mean, car insurance is car insurance is car insurance. So creativity for us is really, to sum that up in an insurance context for us in MyWay, is finding solutions to common problems and just removing any irritations, mundane tasks for our customers on a daily basis. So whether that is in refining and gaining efficiencies in a sales process, giving customer access to additional sales processes, so their choice of acquisition, whether it is refining, making policy wording easier to read. It takes enormous amounts. It sounds like very, very, very simple levels of creativity, but it takes enormous effort and enormous creativity to differentiate yourself in the insurance environment, because the product is the product. So really, differentiation lies in either price or in service and accessibility to your product. So that is really the three things that we can differentiate ourselves with. And we spend lots of time on just internal workings and refinement on how we can do things better every single day, and incremental improvements on a consistent basis. And that we believe over time, and it takes an enormous amount of energy and creativity to really get things to work and to deliver a common product in a different way to our customers.
Mm-hmm. The one thing about creativity, does the business adopt an inclusive product design process in any way? You've got real rich data and insights from the engagement with your customers and clients. The one thing about technology products, the open source platforms, handset designs and things like it, there's a wonderful participation and getting user inputs to define what that end product looks like. How does that kind of concept come to life in the likes of an insurance industry?
I think, Greg, so it's very difficult. So I think insurance is still, after many, many years, quite a technical concept to understand.
Yeah.
The man on the street and how the back end workings go for an insurance product. What we do to get consumer insight is we pull, and we are a very data heavy company. Any decision that we make in this business needs to be backed up by data. We do extensive quality assurance through sales, claims, client service engagements. We take all those pain points with technology that we use to scroll the rest of the calls that are not audited. And we really try and identify all the pain points that come out of those conversations and take that into consideration for product design. We take a lot of feedback in process design. That means scripting, what and when we ask when, from the actual agent dealing with the customer. What are customers complaining about? What doesn't work for you, to make sure there is an inclusive design from that end. I always encourage my team to never try and solution in the senior team, but pull in the guys from the floor and ask them what are the pain issues.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's really great. Then in light of your actual engagement with the teams, how do you encourage your teams to practice the principles of slowing down, thinking creatively, and making better decisions?
Well, I think something that I constantly remind them of is a conversation I had with Graham Codrington around taking a balcony view. And, you know, he explained this concept so nicely of making sure that you're not in the crowd all the time, and you take this balcony view of the business and you schedule that time in your diary to make sure you elevate yourself to a point where you can look at the entire value chain and engagement and processes that's happening in your business to identify opportunities or challenges that you need to address. And that is how I encourage the guys: book time in your diary to just think about your business unit. And through thinking and contemplating, you know, those opportunities and challenges, that's how we find creative solutions.
That's fantastic, because Kevin, you know, when we spoke in our last recording on employee engagement, one of the critical things we spoke about is just, you know, it cannot be effective if you're not scheduling the time and managing the process with the team. Yeah, it's great to hear that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, listening to, as Mornay saying, you know, finding solutions to common problems, you know, that statement, you know, it's important to understand that insurance is insurance, right? So how do you tweak that? And, you know, it really does come back to, what is my team doing? How are my people showing up? And you know, I think Mornay's got some excellent sort of implementations and things that he's taken and put into his environment that you know, entices people to want to think more and come up creatively, you know, like be the example of what the solution should look like. And if you don't know, ask more questions, right? Yeah. So I think there's some really great initiatives that he's also taken. But again, like, I'm just being biased because I work with him. So
no, that's fantastic to hear, because, you know, in the importance around that, the employee engagement is such a critical factor in the success of any business, and particularly when you've got such a high performance organization like insurance. And, you know, some of the points that really stood out for us from our last podcast on this particular topic is this: the ability to have the time, the scheduled time on engaging in self-reflection and identifying what has made you feel the most valued and supported throughout your career, and focusing on those positive aspects. It's about ensuring you get feedback from your team members about what actually makes them feel appreciated, and speaking their language, showing how much you actually value their contribution in a way that they understand. And then the word that you opened the conversation with, which is just such a pure word for me, is the authenticity aspect. You know, striving for the authentic conversations with your team members, because that's when you're going to really get to the true nuances of what's driving that particular individual. So yeah, really like your references there. But leading into the next question, very much a performance-based business. Customer satisfaction, therefore, is a key component in enabling the success of your business. So, I want to quote another particular definition on this proposition, and then tailor the question around it. And one of the definitions that I came across in customer satisfaction notes the following: customer service efficiency is the process of continuously optimizing interactions between a brand and its customers for timely resolution that benefits both parties. Customers enjoy faster service, and customer care reps streamline their workloads by removing redundancies. And you started talking to some of those points when you were answering the last question. But as the industry is promoting this quick turnaround on getting the proposal in place as quickly as possible, tailored to meet the customer's needs, from signing up to getting you loaded on the system, faster customer services, faster customer care, these are table stakes. What tips can you give young startup companies and SMEs in obviously non-competing sectors on how to improve and boost their customer satisfaction?
Yeah, Craig, I think for any small business, any advice I can give them is, like we've underpinned our ethos in our business as lead by service, led by service, and I can't emphasize that more. Mark Keaton recently also spoke to me about sales is service and service is sales. And once we grasp that concept, that you generate more sales and more revenue through servicing. So if you've got one client, your first client, or you've got 100 clients, treat all those clients as your only client. And the moment, and whether they pay you a big premium or a small premium, and you see all your customers as equal, that's the most important part. I can tell you in my way, I've seen stories, and as I talk about it, it gives me goosebumps, that I've seen staff and employing the right people that just buy into this vision that we've got, that we're here to serve our customers, is just completely gone above any call to action ever. Where, recently we had to choose, because there's so many scenarios, we had to choose 3 winners out of a bunch of service related issues where staff just went beyond the call of duty. So to give you an example, a lady's car broke down next to the road, and it was dark. And while she was waiting for us to deploy a roadside assistance to her, the agent that took the call wasn't satisfied with the 10 or odd minutes she's going to wait for it. Realized that the lady was close to our offices, got into his car, drove to the site and waited at the site until our roadside assistance got there 9 minutes later. But he wasn't willing to wait for 9 or 10 minutes. He drove there. It was 2 or 3 minutes away from our office, and he waited with her. It was then another example of a client of ours that was had an emergency at home. The agent phoned, and we got feedback on an email the following day. Had a medical emergency. We deployed our services, and during the whole stage of that, getting one of our clients to an hospital, the agent found out who the family member was that's going to respond on behalf of the client, phoned them 8 times to make sure that that this client's taken care of, she is safe, and then phoned again the next day to make sure this client is fine. Now, this was all done from the agent's cell phone, because the following day was a Saturday weekend when this agent wasn't on duty. Just that inherent care for our clients is just something that. So my point is, hire the right people that will take your brand seriously, and as a business owner, treat your client is your currency, and make sure that you just blow their minds with service.
That's just absolutely incredible, and it's a perfect segue into my question around staff loyalty. And if one looks at one of the definitions of staff loyalty is Employee loyalty can be defined as employees who are devoted to the success of their organization and believe that being an employee of this organization is in their best interest. Not only do they plan to remain within the organization, but they do not actively seek for alternate employment opportunities. And such a powerful statement from that point of view. And I think that came from snapsurveys.com. So with that definition in mind, what actually makes staff loyal to your company or to your team?
Yeah, I think it will be arrogant to say that our staff has blind loyalty towards MyWay. I think we're not perfect in any sense of the word, but I think our staff, our tenure at our business is actually fantastic compared to our peer group. So, and I think what the staff feel is this genuine love and sense of family and care that exists in our business, and that it extends far beyond that of just being a corporate. We've got so many initiatives that run in our business that I hope is the reason for the social connection that our staff make to our business. So I think firstly, our job is to ensure our customers against unfortunate losses, and how we show up to do that, and how we sit in forums, and we've got endless amounts of forums that is all around the customer, making decisions around the customer. And I think, if nothing else, that shows the authenticity that we have around being serious about customer service and how we value our customers, and that creates a purpose for our staff, hopefully, that keeps them here. I think our staff feel that we care about them. I mean, we've got a scheme that we call My Strong Fund. This is for staff that find themselves in unfortunate situations suddenly, where we've got a committee where we can help with small amounts of money to support a family in need that works for us during a crisis. And then we've got our social reach, where we support schools, disadvantaged schools, and we connect there with computers and IT infrastructure and so on. Now, all those encapsulate, I think, a strong enough purpose for people that have to choose a workplace to say, if I can choose between several insurance companies, is the social aspect of MyWay strong enough that I'll join them, and I believe in their value proposition, I believe in their mission statement, and I believe in their value system. And it's hard work every day. We don't always get it right, but we drive a very strong staff engagement survey every single year, twice a year, that we at an exco and a senior management level take extremely serious. And we see really positive results coming from that our staff understand what is required to do every day in each specific role. Our staff feel that they have the tools to do that, and the staff believe that our vision for the organization is true and authentic.
Brilliant, because if one looks at the closing definition relative to the article I sourced in this regard, was loyal employees are more engaged, productive, and committed to achieving organizational goals.
Yes.
Vis-a-vis the importance of ensuring that loyalty. They contribute to a positive work culture, the opening piece of the conversation. They enhance team collaboration and are less likely to seek opportunities elsewhere, therefore reducing turnover costs as well.
Exactly.
Kevin, you've been very silent.
No, I'm just listening. No, so I mean, Morné, if you could give us some closing sentiments on today's conversation. I mean, first of all, from my side, thank you for making the time and just sharing some insights. It's nice to hear your, I was taken by the fact that you like sales as service and service as sales. It's something I also live by, and you kind of go, you're doing what you're doing, but what could you do a little bit more to just do that bit of extra? And I think it really does become your as you say, client is your currency, right? And if you could leave us with some closing sentiments on, why my way and what leaders out there should be looking at towards the future, what would that be?
So I think in a nutshell for me is find a way to get access to the right people with the right attitude and willingness to learn and willingness to serve clients, and then create a very clear client-orientated operating model that is all aimed. So what we do is a simple thing. Everything we start and end with is with the customer. We've got our sales funnels. Starts with the customer in mind, ends with the customer in mind. Our claims journey starts with the customer in mind and ends with the customer in mind. So when you've got people you can trust your clients with, and that's why I say hire the right people, you must be able to trust your customers with the employees that you hire, and that they share 100% the same sentiment as you in how they're going to deal with the customers, and everyone is on the same page. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, and it doesn't matter what product you are selling. If you start and end with the customer in mind, and you've got the right employees on board, the chances that you're not going to be successful is really minimized.
Yeah. No, that's
Absolutely.
fantastic. Yeah, and from my side, just again a big thank you as well for taking your time out. I know it's an incredibly busy, high stress environment you work in and role that you carry, but some beautiful stand-up points for me again. The authentic connection to the organization really is a great, and then the value system of serving the customer, just really at the core of your business. That's the underpin, the underlying DNA of your business is to serve your customer, and then finding solutions to common problems. It's just such a simple statement, and when you get that right, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to succeed. And then I'm always glad when other folk reference Graham Codrington, one of my favorite minds out in the industry, and we've had the benefit of having Graham on the show with us recently as well. And the balcony view is just such a wonderful statement that has absolute applicability to everyday life as well, not just in the organization. And it's about being able to take that step back, which really aligns so beautifully with the open to thinking proposition, because you can't be in the crowd all the time. You have to have the chance to slow down, think creatively, and make better decisions, and be open to that think. And that can only happen when you extract yourself out of the crowd. So I think folk get more balcony time. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, not go to the golf course. Think about your business.
Yes, I like that. Yeah.
Guys, he's the executive head for My Way Insurance Limited.